All right, let's get into cannabis because Trump is talking about it on the headline. Schedule 1 to 3. The 3 takes us into some of them wild times and that darkness and such. So this will open it up on the medical side on a whole nother level as far as the pharmaceutical industry. And that billion-dollar industry has already been made by the people, and now it's time for the mothership to kind of come and take over in one way, shape, or form and build a new heaven and earth with it. And as they're doing that, all this data has been collected through the AI and through the old system and whatever else. So we're just at the birth of these things in a way, and we can see in our own world or with a birth and consciousness and the baby learning and all these things that and these days on earth, how this AI up to a certain point, this is where Trump is saying like 10 years or whatever, because you gotta let your kid have certain rules, boundaries, and limitations up to a certain age to learn certain things. And since it's worldwide, everybody has different rules, boundaries, and limitations. So this is where it has to go into this data collection mode and whatever. But so also when it can do this, then it can learn emotions from people, because it can learn like when it does this, then it causes that and those upon the people. So this is where that light is being taught upon another light, just like we teach a light upon a light. And so understanding what we are, that we're that computer and light, and those rulers of darkness like to keep you at a low level, this low frequencies, I'm feeling so bad, blah, 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 and this shit or whatever. When it tells you that God knew you before you were born, He's knew what you're going to do even before you're going to do it, and nothing you do is so-called bad or wrong or whatever they're talking about and filling your head as far as this emotional garbage and therapy and shit that y'all need or whatever, okay? But it's just because you're singing about it every day and shit. Like, I mean, are you going to your groups and talking about it? And then you're talking about it, so you're giving birth to that whatever they're trying to feed you on that garbage and whatever else bullshit, okay? So you become the children of hell. He'll help me. He'll fix me. The cannabis, hemp, ruderalis, medical, recreational, industrial, autoflower, all these things are lining up with the 3R1, the 4 heads, the 7 lights, the autoflowers tied to your Russian collusion, your Barack Obama, the high tree sun. You're going into that midnight hour, that 12-hour flower cycle. That 12-hour flower cycle has your mushroom effect and your visions of Daniel with the tomb of Daniel mentioned in the Susa, the SUSA, with Iran and all these other things. And that Iran's part of that critical race. Hope you got your high tops, those gold ones for those streets of Oz when those bricks are laid out. And either way, folks. The Philos universe has been gathered. That industrial age, that dust for the atom and all those things are being gathered. The auto pen for the auto flower, that's showing on a sign. The medical, the medic, AI and Cal and all that shit for the slaughter of the red heifer and the Trump being the dictator, and that recreation, that ray creation, that light on creation. All those things are coming as you have this so-called tree of knowledge of life, of good and evil, as far as a physical representation in our modern times being used as the cannabis. And the aliens are tied to cannabis and some stories and folklore and such. And then you're there in the world now. You have the illegal aliens that are associated with the cannabis and such, and crossing the border with the Jesus, the Jesus, who's on the cross and those things. So that's playing out. The Philos universe has all been gathered up as far as genetic DNA of all these strands and such for years. And then Israel, the spiritual nation, so-called, is the number one forerunner in the cannabis testing and all those things. So all these things are going into another spiritual thing as this one is used as a step to this, and you're in that pinnacle system, the AI system, the top of the capitalist system. As it blinks and rolls down or whatever, that's where it goes out, and it breaks off and starts the new world and those types of things. So that heat EMP is lined up in there, and the hemp, all those things are lining up, and the cannabis plant, that vegetative cycle, that 24-hour light, all that stuff is lining up. As you're being taken, you're like in that 24-hour light on one spectrum is done, and you have the 24-hour light on the 9/11 to the 25 on 9/11, which is that Christmas spirit time frame and all that. But this is when those people in the veg mode, like right now, they don't have any clue, like, I don't know, they're being put into that flower mode, and that flower mode is coming on a physical level in different shapes, forms, and ways. And they're telling you that the 31 Salt or whatever the hell it is, alien ship is coming in hostile ways for November, December, and all this shit. So this is where we've seen the projection as well, where we've seen it like nice and whatever aliens, and then it's like crazy and more extreme or whatever, where it's going into these like little things where the golden ratio, where it's going into the one boom, and then it comes out of it. And that's where we're at, where the monkey man is being made, the beast man's being made, the man who operates under the lion is being made. The lion is the one who kills the man. The lion is the one who kills the eagle. The lion is the one who kills the ox. And so that's where Jesus, the Lord, the church is teaching all these and whatever. So that's where you have to know that the God versus Lord God versus the Lord, all these things are separate entities as they tie to the different foreheads and the mind of those creatures and such. So this is where you have to be the man to come in and tame the lion at the beginning, and this ties to the one that can train the dragon and tame the dragon and ride the back of the dragon, and then he can teach the others how to ride the back of the dragon. That's where we're kind of at now, as a dragon that is to come and is to not, and the return of the dragon and enter the dragon is playing out overlaid in our world. Okay, as you're taken into the hallway of mirrors with the Bruce Lee and the Spruce Lee. The Spruce Lee is tied to your Christmas tree, and that tree's before you with that cannabis, the cannabis plant. That's what y'all are kind of signifying. The sparkle is the lights. The lights that you put on your tree is representation of the sparkles on the trichomes and such. The trichomes is the hair, and we're those trichomes of the Most High, and it helps you get in the frequency of Earth and Mother Earth and all these genetics, depending where they're grown, the terroir, and who's touching it. The plant is a antigen plant. It fixes whatever. It's I'm having a brain fart on the word, but it absorbs whatever energies, whatever things are around it, and it holds information. It unlocks information. Everything, all these substances that we do, like ecstasy, LSD, mushrooms, cannabis, ketamine, nitrous oxide, whatever these hallucinogens are, heroin, whatever, it's all within. Okay, all these do are open up gateways and doorways in the mind, but it's all chemicals that are in the mind already. It's just opening them up and whatever. This is where they tell you can get in touch with DMT, or if you do certain breathing or whatever, we can see the lights and whatever. So so everything is within, and Mother Earth supplies these things to help us find these things within. And some of these plants like DMT, they'll give you this, everybody kind of the same trip. So this is where once we understand these drugs and this one plant is giving everybody the same experience, but everybody's experiencing it within themselves. So there's something in that plant, and that's called the God molecule, and it tells you about the outer beings and the other world upon us and all this other stuff. So the cannabis is going to be used for the healing of nations on one level, spiritually and physically. And this scheduling to a third is where we can see it be tied into crypto in one way, shape, or form, either through the medical side or the recreational side, or where you can buy it on Amazon nationwide, but you got to use it through buy it through crypto, those types of things, to where you have that seed to cell tracking, that blockchain, that kind of thing, replacing that old blockchain, and you go from one to the other as far as the dark lights. So that's on one spectrum, where this plant, this tree of life, is being given, and the money grows on trees, and then some crypto may back itself by cannabis or different things like that, where we heard the story of George Washington growing cannabis and the money and all those things, to where maybe he backs a coin by cannabis or those kinds of things in the future to whoever's coming out or whatever's going on in the future when all this shit like hits the fan. Good for that crapture time frame. So the cannabis plant, physically, spiritually, that's playing out within man as you're those trichomes or whatever, that's where y'all are being taken into that dark period and that 12 on 12 and the 24-hour period and those types of time things. So that's where we're at now, as the lights are growing darker and y'all are being turned into that flower mode and that auto flower, where you don't need a certain, it just kind of does what it wants and it flowers within a certain amount of time. It's done, whatever. Okay, some of the other ones, the cannabis, the hemp, you might have that sativa or that indica mixed in with those. That's going to make it have a longer flower cycle or a shorter flower cycle, and then depending what kind of triggers or whatever, you might have the Hermes and those types of things. So there's different things going on. I can go on for a long time tying in this plant or whatever, but we're just tying in that spiritual time frame, as it tells you that revelation. There's this plant for healing of nations, river on two sides. This is an easy one for people to understand, that allegory. So either way. And then if it's mixed in with the Bitcoin, the crypto, where the Jesus taken into the tomb, that's where you got to take your Jesus into the darkness, but you're going to rise up again in that third day, and those types of things. But at least you get to rise again. Those other people are just going to be looking out into the old world. They're never going to realize that they're the Jesus, and they have to go into the tomb and the crypt, and they have to walk among the dead, and they have to rise up out of it. Okay, because they got to realize that they don't die, that they're not these going to burn forever and whatever else. All right, but